Hey everybody, what's going on? Dace here, and today we are going to be going through Shikondo Soul Eater on Nintendo Switch specifically. I'm not sure what systems this is all on, but I have the Switch one, so we're going to be doing that. So anyway, as you can see, I selected easy mode within novice mode, and I chose, I forget what her name is, the girl or something. Yeah, because the other one is the Reaper out of the two characters. So this is going to be a guide for clearing this game. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So I will touch on a few things. Now, it has been months and months and months since I played this, so it's not like I'm going to cover everything. And I have kind of done a very in-depth examination video for this game anyway, so if you do want more information, that's fine. But let's just get right into it. So for this first stage, like most stage ones, everything is fairly straightforward. Now, one thing I do really enjoy about this game is that the attacks that are coming your way from enemies often are very different compared to a lot of shmups. You'll have attack patterns that behave differently. Sometimes you'll have things that are moving in one direction and then they'll reverse direction, or they'll be moving in one direction and then they will tilt and go on an angle, and just different things like that. There are also a variety of ways things will crisscross and confuse you, or at least it can, and even though there's really no threat whatsoever. So there's something very fascinating about that, and I think that's part of why I love this game, even though it's, in my opinion, like a lot of people, based on what I've observed and heard anyway, a lot of people really don't like this game. I feel it's underappreciated, to be honest, but anyway. So for the most part, you're just dealing with basic enemies filtering in. There really isn't anything crazy going on here. You just got to get used to, staying on top of that, making sure you're picking out the bullets. Sometimes it can be tricky seeing because of the really exquisite, detailed backgrounds. Now you'll notice you'll notice that little black circle that was like forming around me. That's like essentially a grazing mechanic. So when you're close, it's fully charged now, so it's not going to like fill up more. But when you're close to enemy projectiles, you are charging that, and when it's full, you can unleash a big attack, which I'm doing now. There will be times where I'm doing it just to speed up the fight, and not because there's any big threat or anything like that, just because I want to get through it faster. There will be times where it is because I'm about to take a hit, or some other reason I do it. So yeah, anyway, for this boss, there's nothing too crazy either. For the most part, like this attack, for instance, the one that just finished, you can just stay in the middle. For this one, it's literally just a tap one direction or the other just to avoid that. And if you stay close enough, then you're able to charge your gauge a little bit when each of those orange waves goes past. For this part, if you want to charge up more, then move up the screen and then get right beside one of the bullets and just travel down as it moves towards the bottom of the screen, just to capitalize on more charge time. That's a great trick you cannot do enough of. Same thing here, you just one little movement, there's nothing crazy going on at all. One more little movement and another one, just like that. If you want to get risky, you could go to the blue, like right to the edge of the blue row of bullets, and just charge your gauge very quickly just by hanging there, but it's totally up to you. Same thing, boom, and yeah, we're done the first stage. Oh yeah, one thing I will specify, if you're playing the Switch version, you either need to be using, I think, a gamepad or an arcade stick. I think there might be one other thing, but there's a bug in this game where if you're just using like a regular, let's say a Pro controller or the Joy-Cons, there will be a glitch where your movement locks up, and that just pretty much ruins things, because for like 2 seconds you can only move, I think, up and down, not side to side, before it frees you. So just be mindful of that. I'm using the Hori Mini to play this right now. So stage 2, more of these spirits filtering in, and then we have some of these white dudes. Really, like, everything is pretty straightforward here. You can kind of just stay in the middle often and just keep an eye on what is actually coming towards you and what is just heading straight down. Like, there really isn't much you need to do in terms of moving. It can look like a lot, and you might panic and think you got to be flailing about all over the place, but that's not the case. The more you just stay put, the better. I suppose I will talk about the controls a little bit, since I didn't even do that, but you have like your focus shot, which obviously reduces your movement speed, which is super crucial because some of the patterns, even in Novice-Easy, can be fairly tight. Like if you're going through a bullet cloud or whatever the case is, that is just a great way to just do more cautious movement instead of like really jolty kind of stuff. So you'll notice I'm just staying to the edge of the bullets just to always charge when I'm able to charge. Another thing I like about this game is, unlike a lot of shmups where you have your standard shot and then the concentrated shot, it works differently in this. You have your focus shot, except it sends out, or at least for this character, it sends out orbs that will target specific enemies, and then it will move to the next once that enemy is destroyed, while you're still having a concentrated flow of bullets coming out. And I think that's really, really cool. And when you're not doing that focus shot, you'll have you'll just be firing straight ahead with this character, but there will be some streams that do fire to target enemies, and I think that's really, really neat. But anyway, let's focus on this boss. There will be a bunch of little details that I pepper in, which you might as well be aware of, because it will just, it's just that much more knowledge for you to use as you clear this. So this part looks crazy, but it really isn't. Just stay essentially in the middle of the green trail, or go through the gaps if you're feeling like you can manage that. But as long as you're keeping an eye on the big blue spheres, staying in between those, and then moving out of the way of the green ones, you're going to be good for this. It's one of those things where it looks more threatening, but it's not. And then this is quite simple, just back and forth to stay in between the rows of blue bullets. And obviously watching out for the little orange darts. So first phase down and onto this one. So this one can actually be quite intimidating at times. For that, you don't need to do anything, but for this, there's a lot coming at you right there, but it's just that one little gap you got to look for, and then you just ride it through, and then she flushes that all down at you. And then for this, there will be little bullets that come down as well, so you just got to make sure you're in the gap. I just did that there because it had been quite a long time since I played this, so I wasn't going to take any chances. And over, just to make sure you don't get hit, and then just over, stay in, let those pass. And it's another round of these little red circular bullets, and then another stream. By the way, if you have a full gauge and you don't use it, it will reset and have to be charged at the start of the next level. So if you're ever at the, like, close to the end of a boss, you might as well just use it, just to knock off another big chunk of health, or just to ensure that you're not going to take a silly hit for something. Because, if you don't use it, then it's just wasted anyway. So In novice mode, no, okay, so normally in the game, if you're playing like the normal arcade mode, when you finish a level, you can choose either an extra bomb or an extra life. In novice mode, you get both, so there's nothing to choose. They just give you one of each at the end of each stage, but only up to a maximum of 6. So that means that once you've gotten up to a certain point, you can always afford to use a bomb or lose a life before you finish the level, because you're going to get topped up anyway. Obviously not for the final stage, because that's when it comes to a close, but I'm sure you get the idea. So never hesitate to use a bomb if you know you're just going to be getting one and be right up to the maximum again anyway. That was like a bit of tricky dodging. You definitely don't need to do that. I just, for some reason, decided to go through that and not macro my way around the entire pattern. So for those tree-looking enemies, they have like the 2 attacks, the red orbs and then the darts. So it's very easy to deal with unless there's a lot happening. And in that situation, like right now, you just use your, I forget what it's even called, hyper mode, whatever. Because it's not worth taking a hit. You might think 6 lives is a lot, but in this game, it's not a lot. You can lose multiple lives very quickly in a single boss fight. And because you don't get bombs attached to your lives, like let's say you have 3 bombs and you lose a life, you don't just like get a default amount each life. So it's like once you use all 6, it's like that's all you're gonna get, unless of course you then beat a level and get another one. So you really got to budget your resources in this game, and I think that's fantastic too. So for those guys shooting the huge rings of circular bullets, it's easy to dodge. You just wait for the gap to spread out wide enough and you just stay at the bottom of the screen. For the most part, you're staying at the bottom of the screen in this game anyway, because there aren't too many times where you've got to be like circling up and around and doing all this crazy maneuvering. I won't speak for like the very hard levels, because yeah, those definitely step things up a huge notch, but I just mean in terms of novice mode, you can pretty much cling to the bottom at all times, except for like certain times. I'll obviously point them out and you'll see when we watch, but anyway, stay in that one little spot when the web is coming out, and then for this part you just stay at the side where I am, and then you can go back here, just wait for the gaps and just move over to make sure you're always in those gaps. There's the spot again, just stay right there, and then you can learn the positioning for where those crisscross and where the gaps are, or you can just fire and then reposition like I did there. And the first phase is finished for that. So this just tap dodge over to the side, back this way in between those 2 rows of red or orange darts, and then dodge that. Pick a side for this, and then you're just going to be moving with the flow as it goes back and forth, but obviously you want to make sure you're paying close attention to the darts, because it's easy to miss those and get hit. But thankfully, everything in this game is slow moving. So with a little practice, you'll be able to just get more accustomed to what you need to do and how to avoid all this stuff. For here, you can stay, if you're not charged up fully for your gauge, you can do that right now where I am. But you can just wait until the last moment and then do right like that. But you're fine. Again, at the bottom, you're totally fine. And then this pattern again, you just go back and forth. I always pay attention to the red streams, because those are the indicators for me anyway. That's just how my brain works. When I see that, it's like, okay, move over and then over again. And then for this pattern, of course, you're just staying in the middle, avoiding the darts, nothing crazy. For this part, you're going to want to watch for the middle to start bending, and then that second stream comes out, and then you want to be inside there. The reason I'm doing the hyper mode is just to get more damage going, but then you're just circling. You're using your focus shot this whole time, so that way you're constantly damaging. Even when you're not shooting straight into her, the ones that target her directly at least are getting her. And that is that boss. Wow, we're halfway through the 30-minute run. It's actually been really, really fantastic jumping into this again. Even though I've only been playing on novice mode, it's still it's still a very engaging game. Really enjoyable, and I'm gonna definitely continue where I left off. Like I did the normal mode, arcade mode, 1cc, and then I started practicing hard mode. And I think I'm definitely going to jump back into that because I love this game. Okay, so for this, lots of enemies on the side. You're going to have side-to-side clusters of enemies like this, and they're all shooting these diagonals with some coming straight down. So the easiest thing to do is kind of just pick a side and then stay there, or if it's time to start moving over to the middle because it's safer, you'll just get a feel for it the more you practice this. But it looks like a lot, but it's not actually. Just pick a side and stay in between the gaps. And always use your soul collect mode. I'm just going to call it a hyper because that's easier. Just use that anytime it looks like it's going to get crazy. And that's one reason you might not want to risk charging it if you're not used to that sort of thing, but just get in the habit of doing that because it's always so handy to have a full gauge at the ready, just in case, because you really want to protect your lives. So yeah, just simple small movements, nothing insane. For these, you just want to stay to the side since those big faces send out like a double stream. And definitely learn which enemies grant you a bullet cancel because you'll want to use that to your advantage too. I'm not going to specify like every single one because you'll just get used to that if you're actually tackling this game. But yeah, you get the idea. Bullet cancels are super, super important. I love those attacks. And just because you see me using a hyper mode at one point or another, it doesn't mean you have to wait for that opportunity. There may be times where, whether it's during a boss fight or something, it's more advantageous for you to use it to get through a certain phase of the fight you're having more trouble with. So never take it as like, oh, you've got to do it the exact way that I'm doing it, because that's not the case. Everyone's going to process information differently and tackle these games differently and have a method that works best for them. So yeah, just keep that in mind as well. And for these where like a lot is raining down from those like void creatures, you can pretty much just stay at the very bottom middle and just concentrate that firepower on them, and they will drop before anything is really even threatening you. There are oodles of opportunities like that where you can just, as long as you're doing your focus shot, like you're fine to just stay on it, and then it's gone. I would so love to see these people do a second game. So stage 4 boss in the golden chamber of endless pleasure. Okay, so for this, this can be tricky, so just hyper it and then just get in between that. And then there's a second one. I used one of my charges there to enter like the second soul collect mode, just because I didn't want to risk being hit, so that is like that, and then you just, yeah, that's the end of the first phase already. So for this, you want to be up here to start charging your gauge if you're not full, and then just start creeping down with them as they're heading towards you. And then as soon as it's full and you're about to take a hit or whatever, then just let go and use that hyper. So just inch to the side. They're going to kind of crisscross like that, and then get back right onto her with your firepower. Start charging right away because you're going to want your gauge full again. I used a bomb there because I didn't want to risk that, and I wasn't full yet, so same thing. Here we go. I noticed those blue ones coming too, so I used that right there. And just same thing, move over. I love bullet cancels because that is just fantastic. Use that to your advantage. I used another bomb because I was about to take a little hit from that tiny guy. And just wait for it, use it. Same thing, over. This stage 4 boss fight actually was fairly sloppy. Normally I do it without any bombs, or even like entering that second soul collect mode. But for whatever reason, that's just how this one went down. I was kind of aiming for a no miss, but during the very final boss, that's when I took a couple hits, I think. But yeah, for the most part, that's all you need to do for that boss. And the final stage. This is where everything gets super awesome, if it wasn't already. So yeah, same spirit enemies. Again, start charging right away. If you are not so experienced, even if you are experienced, it's just best to have one. I'm not going super crazy with the charging because or at least I wasn't right at the very start, because I knew there was going to be this big cluster to deal with and I would be able to charge then. So yeah, the lanterns, they can sometimes feel like they take a while to drop. So definitely just target them the moment you see them, because you want those guys gone. And there's an especially nasty one coming up that's a little stronger than the normal ones we've seen so far. So sometimes if you see two faces, I think there's an instance in this stage which I'll point out, but I want to remember to do that because yeah, there's something specific that I want to share. Same thing, just stay close, start charging where you can. Remember, everything's moving slow, so afford yourself a little experimentation with just like, yeah, being close and then backing away with the patterns just to build that gauge. So this is the guy. He does a lot crazier things than the other one. I didn't want to risk it, so that's why I hit the hyper anyway. And then I'm literally just staying in this one spot until this attack, and then you're just kind of moving up between those. And he just happened to, I totally thought I was going to take a hit there, but he just happened to die before that. And then we're on to this. Second half of the stage is where there's just tons of stuff happening, all sorts of enemies filtering in. Everything is just becoming like chaotic, essentially. But yeah, learn the enemies, learn what they do, the angles of their attacks and stuff, and you can start piecing together. So I'm not sure if I missed it or not, but the two white-faced horned dudes, sometimes both of them they'll show up on either side, and they'll have a spread shot that comes out, and it looks like everything's coming at you, but they're actually heading towards the opposite sides of the screens. Like, I think this is actually it. So you can pretty much just stay in the middle and they will pass by you. Yeah, that might have been it. So it's easy to think like, oh man, how am I going to get out of this? I got to use a bomb, but you can just sit tight in the middle and nothing's even going to really happen. And again, just like use your hyper when you need to. Zero in on whatever's going to give you a bullet cancel. Take things down as quickly as you can. All that kind of stuff. Just to stay on top of things to the best of your ability. There's one thing I love, it's firing off a hyper in this game. It's so satisfying. That's not always the case in shmups, but for this it's just so satisfying. So here's the final boss. It's not like I've put 100 hours into this game or anything like that, so there are certainly attacks she does that still trip me up. Just because, yeah, like I said, some of the behavioral patterns that you'll witness in this game are just like crazy. This is one attack that just screws me so often, so I just used the hyper and then the bomb thing or whatever, just to play it safe. Because that's an attack sometimes where I just feel like, okay, I'm safe to just be right in between, and then you're still getting hit. So yeah, use this opportunity to charge. It looks crazy, but everything's just kind of like moving, and you can read it easily enough. It's more or less the second half of the fight that gives me the most issue. I used different positioning in my arcade, like my normal 1cc, than I did in this. I didn't go back and look over what I did, so I think that's part of why I messed a few things up in this, even though it's like the novice mode. But yeah, I'll point out a few things here and there. So this is one you can safely charge. This green positioning, or this green pattern, I mean, that hit I just took, I think could have easily been avoided if I was just paying closer attention. You can clearly, like if you're looking at the pattern, you can clearly see like hallways essentially that you can use to your advantage. For this, it's a super simple pattern. You just stay to the edge of the purple, pinkish ones, and you're fine. The red ones will not hit you if you're just playing it safe like that, even though it looks like it's bending all over the place. This, you can kind of just stay like that. You gotta really watch for some of the darts that start materializing at the bottom and heading up towards you, because they come out of nowhere. They literally materialize. That can catch you off guard, and I think that's so cool. Yeah, I touch on this in my other video. The psychological manipulation this game does is fantastic. That was a hit that I did not need to take. That was just me not acting when I could have. And I almost took a hit there. At the time, I totally thought I had taken that hit, and then I was like, wow, I got my hyper instead. Bullet cancel, bliss. I love it. But yeah, simple stuff for that, and then it goes back into this, so you're just staying in the middle of those two streams, making sure the part that's unfolding and bending and twisting and all that doesn't hit you. But it's easy stuff. And I just popped that just to finish it off and not risk another hit. Because at this point I was like, yeah, 2 hits. That's fine. And yeah, there you go. You just, yeah. 1cc'd, or we just 1cc'd Shikondo. So anyway, let me know if there's anything else you want to know, anything I didn't cover, or specific sections you would like more assistance with, or more of a breakdown, any of that kind of stuff. Let me know in the comments. I don't mind going more in depth. I realize this is kind of more of a casual, just here you go, blah, 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 do this, do that. But anyway, I trust you all enjoyed this. Have a stellar day. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next time.